Today, I'm going to tell you and to share some experience and some ideas about how to make our learning, thank you for mentioning already that not that much teaching, but learning, more learner-centered, more learner-involved. The ways how to develop our learners' researching and thinking skills. And I want to share one method and way which we use, which in our view is an alternative to a traditional course book using way of learning. And that method or way of learning or kind of tool we use is called Learner's Bank. What is a bank? Not in terms of money, of course, but in terms of learning and in terms of education. That is, in fact, the data bank. The data bank, which is collected by students, that is a collection of various items, objects, data, which collection depends on the subject, on the students, on the different students, on the aims. Me, as a language teacher, I will speak about a data bank, a collection of data connected with language, and in particular with grammar. So I will speak about a learner's grammar bank. What is a learner's grammar bank? It is a purposeful collection of authentic utterances with the aim of solving a specific learner's grammar problem. I would like to focus on the word purposeful. It is crucial in this definition. That is one of the definitions of a bank which I have chosen for this presentation. Purposeful, what does it mean? That we collect not whatever we want, not randomly, but first we put a certain aim. And the aim is included in the area of solving a learner's grammar problem. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to compare and to show you the benefits which I see working with banks compared to, let's say, the usual ways of presenting grammar and the alternative to the course book or textbooks which teachers usually use. So the banks are individual. They are personal. It means that students, please remember, as Edgar told, I mostly work with senior students. That is the 10th form. I start working with that in Form 10. So that is a collection, individual collection. Learners collect examples of certain grammar structures. And what about this individuality? First of all, they collect them separately, individually, not as a class, not as a group. And another idea of individuality is that they can choose the text according to their interest. Aims, again, I want to remind once more, the aim why we collect the bank is important. Learners have regular exposure to authentic text. That is an obligatory requirement. They use as a resource only authentic texts. So they work with authentic language. That is a great plus. I think that if we compare it with our methods, because sometimes we tend to simplify examples to demonstrate a rule. This way of working with material gives us another opportunity. We give exposure to real language for students, which might seem pretty difficult in the beginning, but I'm sure more fruitful. Speaking about different materials and the number of materials and where to take the materials, using banks, I think one of the benefits is that students collect banks individually. And if you ask, for example, the students to collect 10 examples of a certain structure, and you have 10 students in a group, minimum. Most often we have more. Then we will have a bank of 100 examples. And that is enough, I would say, enough database to start and to introduce the researching. Enough material to build our hypotheses, to build our knowledge, to make some conclusions, to find answers, to put questions, and so on. One problem which I consider is very important and difficult to solve when we work with a course book is that usually examples in the course books are pre-selected to demonstrate a certain grammar rule, which doesn't sound very natural. So either the authors of the course book or if the teacher herself or himself want to introduce the thing, she has a rule in her head or in his hand, and she consciously or subconsciously collects the examples which prove or support the rule. While using banks and while using real materials, we come with so many examples that they can't be restricted by any rules. And in this way, we don't restrict students. We don't, we can't move them the direction we want. They have freedom enough to move to the direction they want. So coming back to that bank of examples, so having a lot of them and enough of them, we use a bank. The next step is that we use the banks of students to put down hypotheses, and they are free, not limited by, as I have told, just by pre-selected. Another interesting and I think very important point speaking about developing learners' autonomy and learners' individual thinking ways and thinking skills is the following fact. From my experience, when the students look at the same bank of utterances, they see different students see different things there, and that is fine. And the main approach and the main procedure is that whatever ideas they come up with are considered correct and right. So in fact, when students put down hypotheses, the hypothesis can't be considered wrong unless proven the opposite. If we speak about the real research, when researchers don't know the right answer, and here students don't know the right answer, and sometimes even the teacher doesn't know the right answer. When I started working with bank, I changed my own ideas about some certain grammar structures because giving enough examples of that. Then when the scientists and researchers put down hypotheses, they don't know which one is right, which one is wrong. They need to check it. The same here in this situation. The students put down hypotheses, and they can put down any hypothesis. I will show a little bit later the example. If we speak about very, very simple things, like an article with very small kids, in the beginning, A and an article, if we give them a list of examples, they sort them, or they collect this list of examples from the text, and they select them, for sure they will come to two groups. A group with A article and a group with an article. Some of the students will see what is the difference between them, that in one case we have A article, with the other sees an article. Another student will come with the idea that we speak about that in some cases we see a vowel, in the other a consonant, ignoring these A-N things. Both of them are right. The point is that at some moment, at some stage, we put them together to make it bigger. So every student invests his vision, and this vision helps to build them a fuller and a bigger picture. Now I want to show you how we usually work, what the procedures of working with the banks are, which I think very important because we can work differently, and that is a list of steps which I follow when I work with the bank. That is, we need to create the motivation for working with this grammar problem, why we need to select and to collect the bank. If we don't put this aim, if we don't put the context for looking the solution for the problem, I don't think that the students will be motivated to do it. So we can diagnose the problem in a different way. We can help we as teachers can help younger learners, or we can involve the older students to put down and to formulate the problems themselves. The ways how we can formulate are different. We can give a very simple diagnostic test where they see that they can make mistake. At a more advanced level, I think that connecting between the previous topic that we studied, they have questions. And these questions, where they don't have an answer but they want to find the answers, can be a good starting point for starting collecting and researching the area and the problem. The problem which we are going to solve will serve the aim why we collect the bank. I again want to underline and repeat, it's really very important, because the aim and the function becomes a very powerful criteria how to choose the things for the bank. That is a good filter, what to choose, what to include into the bank and what not to include to the bank. So that is about we have a problem and then we formulate the goal. And the goal and the aim, we collect the bank according to the aim which we want to achieve. So the next step, was pre-collecting steps. Now we start collecting the banks. As I already told, they collect them individually. So they get a task. At the initial stage, the students, maybe the role of the teacher is larger, but the major point of this work is that with time, with developing the skills and with developing the strategy, how to do the tasks, the part of the teacher's involvement should get smaller and smaller, and the part of the students' involvement should get bigger and bigger. So usually we come with some idea, with some grammar points, and I offer them to collect examples with this structure. They are given some period of time, from 1 week to 2 weeks. When they collected individuals, there are some restrictions. Their text should be authentic. They are not grammar sites, which students tend to use when you give this task. That is the easiest way. They go to the website, connected with this grammar topic, and just copy examples from there. But that is the things which we want to go beyond, which we want to get rid of. And they can't use grammar books. They can't give examples from grammar books. That is why one of the part of this grammar bank, they should all the time show the resource where they have chosen the examples from. Nowadays, it's not that difficult, in fact, to collect samples of certain grammar structure, because you can use the internet, but not for grammar sites, but for real text from the internet. Then you can find it, and electronically it is done pretty easy and pretty difficult. So we have collected a bank. I mean, the kids have collected the bank and come to our lessons, and we do next. Now we start working with this database. And the first thing we do, we classify. We make different classifications. And the classification is based on the ENV model, which Alexander mentioned, that is element, name of feature, and value of feature. That is a good instrument or a good tool which helps to make classification more efficient and more successful and quicker, and classifications get better. Now, coming here to that idea which I mentioned previously about the different students see different things in their banks. They will come with different classifications. So they will put different parameters at the basis of classification. And that is, again, where we speak about the learner-centered approach, where we speak about individuality and the involvement of the students. They are not restricted. The teachers usually are afraid that different students come with different ideas. But that is not a problem, that is a benefit. Because when we put together these different ideas, we will get a bigger, a fuller picture. So, and everyone has their involvement and investment in this result. Again, coming back to the aim. The quality of the classification really depends on the aim. And doing this task regularly, the students develop a habit and a skill to compare and to apply this function model. So they learn to find connections between the function and the material they have, which is very important for developing really good skills of coping with information. Then we start sharing classification, and we start analyzing the classification of students. So they present their classification, they share their classification, they combine their classification. This is usually the work happens in the classroom. We work together with the students where they put forward their hypothesis, where the other students either challenge their hypothesis, agree, disagree. And the result of this classification, as a result we usually get a model. And the model is another form of our regular rules, which we usually give to our students. After working in this way, the models and the rules are wider, more precise, and more clear to the students because they are produced and done by themselves. And as a result, their knowledge is deeper and stronger. At least that is from my experience. Now, coming back to this hypothesis, when I spoke that there are no wrong hypotheses, there are no correct, right, or wrong ideas. Now here comes the time when the students start checking their hypothesis. And bank, again, helps here a lot, because usually students make some models and some conclusions of the analysis of database they have got, basing on their own bank. Now, we have in the class 10 other banks, so we still have enough material to use for checking their hypothesis. And here comes the time when they really should stand and prove if their idea is right or wrong. So the bank is here also a very helpful tool for checking their model, for correcting or improving the hypothesis and the model which they have produced. That is a bank of a student. They come to me in Form 10 and they face this message of learning for the first time in their school life experience. And it was Form 10. And the topic is modal verbs. They have a vague idea about the form of modal verbs. I mean, they know the different forms of modal verbs, but they have a very vague idea. But they have a very vague idea of the meaning of modal verbs, the difference between modal verbs, and for students with the Russian background, it's difficult because in the Russian language we don't have modal verbs. That is why for them that is an absolutely new area, which they know very, very little about. Even worse, that experience of their own language prevents, and that is an obstacle for understanding the English use of modal verbs. So what they have to fill in, they put down their name, they put down the date when they hand in or produce and bring into the classroom the bank, the name, the theme, the reference book, which they should, as I told, that they should show where they have taken the examples from, and put down the aim. So what was the aim, why they collected this bank. So that is what the students come into the classroom. And there are 13 of them, and each of them comes with that list of different examples. Another thing, if you remember the procedure, I ask them to classify, to sort the sentences which they have on this list. And referring to Alexandra's example with a tiger, an elephant, a car, and somebody else, they choose the parameter according to which they should classify. The most evident, the first evident parameter is the modal verb itself. Usually the first classification, which they do, they just collect together, put together sentences with one and the same modal verb. And the next step is, if we remember about this challenging their answers, yes, that is obvious. What I ask next, we put the challenge, can you come up with other classifications? So they have to notice, to see, to analyze, and make another system, and make another classification, finding for another parameter. And possible parameters there can be, let's say, time reference. So we can make another classification with time reference. Then another classification can be with the meaning of the modal verb. Is it about necessity? Is it about probability? And coming up with different classification, they view, they understand, they analyze different aspects of modal verbs, from the form to the meaning. Then collecting and summarizing this classification, putting their hypothesis, putting possible rules which they think, basing on this bank, that their idea, their conclusions, that is a draft. That is the first draft model, when they put all these conclusions in one model. The next step is that you have come up with idea that the modal verbs are, there is a list of modal verbs. Then the modal verbs have such and such forms when speaking about present or past. Then the modal verbs have different meanings. It can be the meaning of necessity, or it can be the meaning of the degree of possibility. They have these preliminary hypotheses. They take other students' banks and they check them. They check if their hypotheses work with other examples. That is how, in fact, these materials and these banks is used during my lessons and my experience. I have given you an example how we work with grammar. But grammar is not the only area where we can use this method or this way of teaching. If we speak about, let's say, style, if we study style, then we can collect a bank of texts with different style, of different genre. Analyzing and comparing according to the parameters offered by the students, they come to conclusions about features of this or that genre or style. If you want to work with some ideas how to write well, they can come up with different examples of writing. They collect banks of different writings. If you want to study and to help them to understand what a good presentation is, how to present, then you can collect examples of different presentations. And when working in this way, during a certain period of time, the students really develop the skill of applying the tool. They make conclusion how it works, where it works, and using them, they really become better researchers, better analyzers, people who can analyze, systematize, make a system, make conclusions, put down rules, creating the rules. And in this way, I think that they really become better thinkers and better creators. Thank you.
There was a very interesting thought. I don't know, again, as I have this extremely good right to tell what I have heard during the presentation. And what you heard from Irina is that, see, the teacher may know the answer, but she accepts any hypothesis, and they can be about the same thing, two different hypotheses, and they will be allowed, and you are allowed to prove them if you can, form the rule, check the rule, and go change the rule, and so on. So it means that even if you know the answer, you are not supposed to dominate. Yeah. The second nice thing that maybe when speaking about grammar, and this is where the research is possible, it's in the beginning you create banks, then you sort the banks, make your hypothesis, then you check your hypothesis. This is the way you actually are expected to do any research, you know, in physics and so on and so forth. So actually, working even with the language, you can do a real research, and not like once in a while, but doing the grammar work throughout your academic year.